Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Gamereactor Live, the #1 Gamereactor live stream.
On the internet.
Yes.
Yes.
Today it's me and Magnus here in the studio, and we should be joined by our usual friend in the internet, Bengt Lemne. Are you there?
I am here.
Great. I think we should just jump straight into it, because we have a lot of interesting news to talk about.
Yes.
And of course, I forgot my iPad. Maybe we can get that from the side a little bit so we can watch the chat. First story of the week I have right here is about the Sony VR headset. Basically, Sony is rumored to be creating a headset that's similar to the Oculus Rift. And of course, GDC is happening next week, and the list of GDC shows are official, and there's one called Driving the Future of Innovation. And according to Edge, that will be a tech demo and a reveal of this headset. And according to Edge as well, third party already have hands-on with the Sony headset. Bengt, what is your comment to this?
Well, the virtual reality headset for PlayStation 4 has been rumored even longer than PlayStation 4 has been official, I think. So this is something that we've sort of been hearing stuff about and been reading stuff about, and we've just been waiting on, you know, on it to become official. Edge have now sort of they've taken it on their reputation to say that it's going to be announced next week. It sort of makes sense because Sony have sort of been hinting at a big announcement. So I think there's a good chance that we'll see what they've been working on. You know, I think that there's been a lot of developers who also hinted that maybe Oculus Rift won't be the only thing virtual reality wise that you know they will be supporting.
Yeah, there's also the thing that we have this schedule for GDC, and it's official that there will be a panel where it says it's Shuya Yoshida, Richard Marks, and Anton Mikhailov. It's called Driving the Future of Innovation. Could it really be anything else, Magnus?
Well, I don't really think it could be anything else at this point. And add to that it's really not a contested space, the VR space, because you have Oculus Rift that's been so heavy, sort of linked with PC development and with Steam and Valve, and then you have sort of in the same vein as Kinect 2.0 has been with the Xbox, and PlayStation 4 has yet to travel into those kinds of waters. So I think that it would be natural to unveil it now and at GDC. And as Bengt says, it's been rumored for I don't know how many years now that Sony was working in some form of VR development. So.
I mean, it makes sense from a technology point of view. I mean, they have all the tech is being developed in-house for that kind of thing. So it sort of makes sense to bring it together. What's also interesting about the Edge piece is that apparently the support so far isn't great from third parties, because obviously no one knows how successful this is going to be. It's an expensive undertaking to make a PlayStation 4 game that's working with VR. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I would assume that the first things we'll see are smaller games. Some of the games that maybe support Oculus Rift can quickly adopt it on PS4, like War Thunder, for instance. Yeah. And of course, first party. I think Sony want to have something that's my sort of. I wouldn't be surprised if Quantic Dream, for instance, were working on something with it. That's a studio that I would assume could be working on that, but it's very interesting. I think certainly it could be other things. There are a few things that sort of throw me when it comes to that session. First of all, it's not a keynote. It's not in the big hall. It's in one of the smaller, it's not a small room, but it's not one of the bigger rooms at GDC that they're having this in. And it's also oh, my dog is going off here. It's what was it? There's also the I gotta go open the door.
While Ben goes to take it, I just want to bring something up. Because the thing with bringing out a VR headset now for Sony, aren't they going to run into the problem that they also have with their camera, where Microsoft packs in the Kinect with their console, so everyone has it, that it's not going to be that interesting for developers in the beginning to push for it on the PS4 when they don't know how many people have that, just like the camera.
Indeed, but despite that, we all agree that the PlayStation 4 is a great console, and Sony has a great many deal of good game developer studios. They have sort of this long checkered history with hardware stuff they put out, like the PlayStation Move, the PlayStation Camera, the gyroscope stuff that was in the original DualShock 3 that they sort of thrash into their games with mixed success.
Yeah.
So this could have at least the, if you look at their track record, it doesn't look as bright. And
No.
In the same sense that the Oculus Rift has a lot going for it at this point.
Yeah.
A lot going for it. A lot of developers are behind it, and you have Valve, the sort of this kingpin in the PC
And
community.
I mean, that could help Sony as well, that if developers know there is a
Indeed.
VR headset for PS4, there is one for PC, it
Yeah.
should be similar for them to
implement
yeah.
those features, yeah. But I think it's true for Bank to say that for starters, I think Oculus is going to have the PC community and it's going to have the indie community, and Sony's only way to push this is to implement it in a smart way into their first-party titles and then take it from there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why that this isn't a keynote speech, that this is a big push for VR, but it's not like their new main focus. Their new main focus is still putting out games for the PS4, which is struggling to get enough titles out for the consumers.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Sony, as you said also, they have a lot of first-party studios, and it would make sense and kind of easy for them to say, like, let some of them work on it, and also have, I mean, I could really see some of the smaller teams, they often have worked with Sony Santa Monica,
Yeah.
like that game company did before.
Indeed, yeah.
Smaller teams like that, like get free realm to work on something special with with something like this.
And just you know, there are still small games that would like to come to the PlayStation 4 because of its sort of kindness towards the indie developers. For example, a horror game which I believe was made in Norway, Among the Sleep, which you play from I think a 2-year-old's perspective. It's coming with Oculus Rift support on PC, but at least for its console life, it's going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 4 for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be a great way to sort of take that availability for a VR headset and toggle that into the Sony VR headset, whatever it's going to be called, PlayStation VR.
That's going to be interesting as well, see about the name.
Yeah.
All right.
I would be very surprised if they're doing this if the Witness wasn't supporting this.
Yeah. That's actually a given now you come to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along to the next news. Double Fine announces Costume Quest 2. Double Fine Productions, they managed to pick up the rights to Costume Quest when THQ went through their bankruptcy. And I have a quote for this now from Tim Schafer. For the last couple of years, said Tim Schafer, creative director of Double Fine Productions, whenever Halloween came around, I felt like something was missing. No matter how many pumpkins are carved, apples I bopped, or candy I ate, I just couldn't fill the big spooky hole inside of me. But then I realized what was missing. I needed more Costume Quests. And also I really wanted a t-shirt with glowing skulls on it. So that's part of the story. The other part, which I should mention right away, is just that Midnight City is also bringing Gone Home to consoles.
Yeah.
So again, Bengt, let's start out with you. Thoughts on this?
Well, you know, it marks an interesting first. I think they've tried to bring out sequels before, but this is like the first numbered sequel from Double Fine Productions that's actually officially announced. So fingers crossed it will happen, unlike Psychonauts 2 and Brutal Legend 2. You know, Custom Quest was a moderate success when it came out. It didn't really do huge numbers or anything like that, but it's in that vein of sort of a comedic take on the sort of the RPG genre, which, you know, I think a lot of us older gamers kind of appreciate. Also interesting that Midnight City, this new label from Majesco, is you know, handling both this and Gone Home. Shows that they're getting some high profile games on their label, and that's an interesting movement. I also think that this is probably an indication that both Double Fine and the Fulbright company are retaining a lot of rights and stuff, because I can't imagine that they would go with Midnight City if they didn't have good terms.
True.
And that's positive. I think it's good that there are more new smaller publishers popping up that can give indies a better deal than perhaps the big companies would sort of bully them into agreements that perhaps wouldn't be as beneficial. So it's nice to see that competition for the indies.
Yeah, Magnus?
Well, I didn't get that into the original Costume Cast. I think it's nice. It has some old school sensibilities and some nice approaches. I think to sort of this light-hearted sort of RPG design, which I thought is neat. And it's fine to see some of the original Double Fine properties aren't forgotten. As Bengt said, it was a moderate success, did fine. But probably at this point, Double Fine would be too busy to sort of handle all of the development themselves, now that they're putting out the second act of Broken Age, for example. But I think it's great to see that there's still life left in some of these franchises that people have a lot of fond memories of, which I think is nice. And for a developer like Midnight City, who's also putting out Gone Home, was it, for consoles, I think it's great that there are these studios that are happily sort of also putting out ports and then finally gets to do something for themselves, which also sort of, I think, is the case for Bluepoint Studios, which is putting out the Xbox 360 version of Titanfall, which there's a lot of focus on, and then finally they'll get to do something by themselves. Yeah. That's the way a lot of studios sort of.
Yeah, Sensorial Games did that with Sly.
And Sensorial Games, yeah, a lot of developers sort of get to win some ground with these like functional ports, and then finally get to do
less
something.
risky production first.
Yeah, indeed.
But Midnight City isn't developing this.
No,
this is
a
Double Fine.
Yeah.
Midnight City is just a publisher. Yeah. I'm not sure who's doing the Gone Home port. I think that's another company.
Yeah.
This should be fully a Double Fine effort on.
For me, I'm not super excited for Costume Cast. Didn't really catch my.
Did you get into the first one?
No, not really. I played it. Wasn't really for me. But again, it sounds good. But Gone Home, I so want to play that game.
Yeah.
Again. If you haven't tried it, go play it on PC or wait for this. It's really,
I still
really
haven't.
awesome.
I still haven't gotten into it.
Yeah, there was one big question, of course, with that announcement, and that's which consoles are they referring to? They didn't include that information
Wii
in
U
there.
exclusive.
Now, I would actually assume that this might be tied up to announcements that's coming in the next week or so.
At GDC.
When Microsoft are revealing the indie
stuff,
indie stuff for Xbox One. So I would assume that Gone Home might be one of those, and the Custom Quest 2 as well. And
you think they're going to be exclusive to Microsoft?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the big news thing, that you don't really have to be exclusive to get onto Xbox Live Arcade. So, but it could be. That's why. I mean, I have no idea, but I don't think that's necessarily true. And also there's a plural there, so it's more than one console that it's coming out to. So.
Well,
fingers crossed it will be across the board.
Yeah. There was a snippet of news actually when a journalist interviewed the Fulbright company regarding the console port, that trophies, the name trophies was mentioned, and he didn't back away from that. He didn't shy away from calling it trophies. Yeah.
Okay.
So
nice.
You can't call that an official announcement of PlayStation. Some PlayStation platforms where you could assume.
I mean, there are a lot of people who call the trophies achievements and vice versa. So
yeah.
But I mean, yes, he should have reacted to that if it was wrong.
Yeah.
So.
And as you said, Bengt, it seems like we're getting into a time now where more games are multi-platform and comes out on everything. And I mean that for a game in general, it doesn't really make sense to have it exclusive. You are going to make more money if you put it out on all platforms. It's going to sell more copies.
But I mean, what happened with Xbox Live Arcade was that it was so dominant in the beginning of the last generation that every indie wanted to be on there, and Microsoft's deals were basically, okay, you put it on here and you're exclusive, and we also reserve the right for the sequel to exclusively launch on our platform. So it was a really restrictive thing, and of course, if you had put it out somewhere else, you could not go on Xbox Live Arcade. So if you'd released it on Steam or you had a really or PlayStation Network, you had a really hard time getting it on there, and there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of different things, because basically when Xbox Live Arcade started, Microsoft had a little bit of a monopoly. Now the situation is completely different,
Yeah.
and they have to come asking for indies to come along, and that's a
I think it's also
big
something
thing.
like for a lot of developers, the cell was really hard to develop for. So that with PS4 is going to make it easier. Well, we're also going to see now soon trials coming out for the first time on
PlayStation. Yeah. Well, it's just that I don't know if you saw or any of the viewers have seen Indie Game the movie, but there was the sort of red tape involved with getting stuff on Xbox Live was sort of revealed there, especially with the with the Super Meat Boy development timeline and how that was handled. So I think that as the indie scene grew towards the end of the last generation, so did Sony's sort of awareness of its success and how that would sort of push the platform through.
Their successes were more first-party stuff. It was games like Journey or...
But now you see sort of, for example, the first 3 PlayStation Plus games for PlayStation 4 have all been these... now, you can say that Outlast is sort of this B title, but for Don't Starve and Dead Nation has sort of been this push for these are just as good and can be just as meaty as AAA games, and therefore we offer them as PlayStation Plus games. So I think that is a push in the right, sort of in the right wing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that at least that Sony has sort of stepped forth and have talks with. Yeah. But whether, as Bengt said, we'll see at GDC, there's going to be a slew of games and developers who will be exclusive to Xbox for a while at least. So it'll be interesting to see what comes up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the main thing with Xbox Live Arcade and PSN was that for the longest time, titles on PSN just didn't sell. So, it was a factor of maybe 4-1 or 5-1 towards the favor of Xbox Live Arcade, which of course didn't have anything to do with the install base. It was just that Microsoft really did a good job, first of all with promotions, and second of all with making sure that people got used to the fact that they're paying for stuff on Xbox Live, and that's really what skewed everything, because there really wasn't any point to releasing anything on PSN for an indie, because of it costs a lot to get a game out on console anyway, because you have to go through certifications and stuff, and that wasn't. I mean, Sony have really stepped up the last few years, but before that, it was painful for indies to do that as well on that platform.
Yeah.
So it's that is why it was the way it was. But now I think, first of all, the technical side can't be understated. It's easier to port things.
Indeed.
But regardless, we're talking a lot about console. The place to be if you want indie is Steam. I mean, that's the best platform for any indie company. That's where you can sell the most, and that's where you'll make most of your money as well.
Yeah. All right, let's move along to the next news story, which is about The Witcher 3.
Oh.
The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt has been pushed to February 2015. And now a quote, short one, to achieve the quality that will satisfy us, the quality gamers expect from us.
Every single pushback quote
is
ever.
what CD Projekt Red says. There's a long open letter. I'm not going to read that aloud. That's going to be boring. But that is basically the story. And then also that the other game they're working on, Cyberpunk 2077, is not affected. Cyberpunk 2077 is developed by a separate team within CD Projekt Red, so the development of Cyberpunk 2077 is not really affected, says the CEO, Marcin Iwinski. He did say, though, devs from Cyberpunk team has been drafted in order to assist the Witcher game. In order to ship a huge RPG, this quote as well, in order to ship a huge RPG, we do use help of certain team members between teams. It works this way between Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3. Bengt, your opening.
Yes. That was some fine double talk towards the end there.
Yeah.
it's not affected, but we're gonna move some people.
Yeah, that was the thing that I didn't really get about this. That they say they're moving people, but it's not going to be a big affected. That's like saying those people that we move over, they don't make a difference. But why do you move them then? But yeah.
I mean, if you, I think when you say something like that, it's mainly that they haven't given a date on Cyberpunk yet.
Yeah.
No. So it's not like we're delaying Cyberpunk because
don't freak out. Please don't freak out.
No. What I would say is that first of all, it's nice that they don't leave it up until the last month to delay it, which we've been suffering from in a lot of in a lot of cases. I think it's good that they do it this early because people will sort of not go and expect that they'll be playing it this fall. I think personally, it's probably one of the games that I'm looking forward to most on next gen.
Yeah.
I just think it looked absolutely stunning at E3, and it's. I mean, I love the fact that they're moving on to open world, and the way they're handling it as well. From what we've seen, is just brilliant. So. I don't mind them taking the time it takes to make sure that it's a polished experience, because I think that's what the game deserves. I think we'll see a few of the big titles that's towards the end of this year slip as well. I mean, it's a new generation of hardware. There's a lot of things to take in, and there's a lot of stuff that's still changing on both PS4 and Xbox One. There's still stuff that's in motion. So. I don't think that Witcher 3 is the last game that we were expecting for Q4 that'll slip into 2015.
Magnus?
Well, CD Projekt Red is a very popular developer with its fans as well. They deliver high quality, and they have the
good reputation.
Yeah, building a good reputation by having the courage to tell some heavy stories with some very deep strategic gameplay. So I think that I agree with Bengt. It's one of my most anticipated titles. It was for 2014, but for next gen in general, from what we know, is coming out. So by giving, if the developers, it's always dubious with these delays, because if the developer who's making the game says we need more time, then there's really no arguing whether they need it or not.
I think for me, I always go back to Last of Us. Yeah. That was delayed 6 months.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty well.
And look at that. So,
there's a lot of shitty games that have been delayed.
Yeah, but just look at the positive thing. Look at the positive.
Well, yeah, if you look at the company's track record, they do great things, and I'm sure that Witcher 3 is far along. That and I think coming back to Cyberpunk 2077, original launch trailer, no gameplay. They've been very quiet about this game. Only I think saying that it could come out in 2015, even 2016. So. Yeah. I don't think we should put anything into that that it's not
impossible to tell,
that it's not delayed, because you can't say it's delayed until you've given it at least some form of release window, and they really haven't. So that they've moved these people, maybe it's just sheer programming, and we might even Cyberpunk 2077 might even be beyond the art stage yet.
Yeah, it could be something like
that. So they've moved some of the technical side over to the Witcher development that weren't needed yet, at least for Cyberpunk. So we have no idea.
I mean, my take on it is this is the first open world game they're doing. That is going to take some extra work that they probably, it's hard to gauge just how much work there is towards the end to do that. It's also the first time they're doing 2 simultaneous projects, which also sort of suggests that, getting everything nailed down is when it comes to moving people from different teams, which is standard fare, really. Every developer that has multiple teams does this when one project is towards its crunch date, where a lot of bugs need to be fixed out, a lot of polish goes into it. You move over people to sort of get through all of that, and it's only natural. I think it's nothing strange, and let's just wait and see when they start communicating about Cyberpunk. I think we may actually have to wait until Witcher 3 is out before they start properly communicating about that.
They don't want their own titles to be competing.
No,
I think that's
very
wise.
Completely different. But I think there will be a big crossover, even though it's fantasy and sci-fi. I think a lot of RPG fans will be into both.
There's
Yeah.
also the thing with
Makes
the whole financial thing for a company like that
Yeah.
it's good to spread out the income so you don't earn all the money like in one period because both games come out.
Yeah.
I haven't played the previous games and I haven't played Witcher 2, but people seem to love it.
You should play Witcher 2.
But
Strong game.
And that's why I feel with this, it looks super cool and I want to play, especially Witcher. I haven't really checked out Cyberpunk yet, but I guess we also don't really have a lot of details.
No.
But I think
There's
CD
basically
Projekt Red
the CG
do two
trailer.
things that make me have a lot of confidence in. And they seem to operate the same way as someone like Naughty Dog, where like they feel, or Blizzard or whatever, all those, where it's like we push it till it's ready. And also they do things like their DLC for Witcher 2, as far as I understood, was free. So they seem to be doing things like that we gamers like, where they're like, we present it the way it should be.
They are a gamer-friendly developer who sort of stray away from that very corporate sort of way of running a company, and they've garnered a lot of support through that, through the very like hardcore RPG community. So it's not like that Witcher 1 and 2 was completely runaway successes, but they've sold well enough that CJ Projekt Red have continued to grow in size, so much that they can now support 2 teams. So it seems that they know what they're doing, and I don't think you should doubt them just because they're pushing it back. And I mean,
I'm almost the opposite, that I doubt them less because of that.
I mean, and at least if The Witcher 2 was sort of coming up on as Bengt said, was coming up on a firm release date, but it really isn't. The only number we've ever been given is 2014 and perhaps fall 2014. So from what we know, this isn't like a huge delay. You can regard it in the same way as The Last of Us delay, which was mere 6 months. So.
And again, I feel the way, like maybe it's because I'm being more selective with my gaming time in this period, but it's like I'd rather play a game a year later that is really awesome than playing a game that's a little less awesome earlier. Like, let me get the best games and that's it.
Well, as Bengt said,
you don't like Steam Early Access then, or?
No, and that's the thing. Actually, maybe it's also when you've been in this industry for a little bit. I play less betas and like early games, and like, let me wait for the day one patches there, and all. I don't need to.
Time is too precious for unfinished products.
Yeah.
Well,
I think another thing that's important to think of when it comes to CG Projekt is, of course, that they're also running good old games. And that is a big success story, and I think that's why also they have a very positive sort of people give them a lot of positives because of their anti-DRM stance.
Yeah.
And I actually visited CD Projekt back before the first Witcher game came out in Warsaw. And it's a pretty small outfit. I mean, the company grew from being a distributor of games in Poland, where they had a lot of success with this kind of old computer RPG. It's very popular in Eastern Europe and Poland and Russia and so on. This genre is really the dominant one. So the whole sort of CD Projekt Red came out of their sort of interest in this genre of games, and I think the first game was actually built on the old engine that was used for Neverwinter Nights by BioWare. So there is that heritage, and I think the first 2 games really show the BioWare heritage in terms of how they're laid out. And now with Witcher 3, it's going to be interesting to see, because this is an open world. It's very different from your typical BioWare RPG. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it.
Yeah. All right, let's move right along. We're spending a lot of time on this.
Sorry.
No, I think it's good, but we are having a lot of news stories. We have a lot of news stories ready here. All right, next one is basically that former Criterion co-founders Alex Ward and Fiona Sperry. We had the story last week that they created their own studio, 3 Fields Entertainment, and there has been some. I'd say a little bit of fighting on social media and the likes. They've been talking about the lack of support from EA and Nintendo when they were working at EA on Need for Speed Most Wanted. I have 2 quotes I want to share with you that Ward is saying. Alex Ward, co-founder of now of Criterion, and now he works in
3 Fields.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he said, "Hey, we worked our asses off. Neither NTDO, that's Nintendo, I'm assuming, or EA gave a shit about it. A group of us did try. Bitch and moan at the publisher and not the developers." And he also said, We just did the coding like we had any choice over when it was released or the price. Everyone is so quick to blame the developers. Folks worked through New Year to deliver that. We tried to do our best. We even flew to Nintendo to personally demo it in a bid for support. There was none. So that was why it didn't come out for Wii U. Can you?
It came out on Wii U.
Yeah, but later. It wasn't released as disc in Europe, right?
I think it was digitally distributed here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what happened here was that someone asked them. They said they would support any platform that allows for self-publishing with 3 fields. And then someone asked about Wii U, and they said probably not.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Nintendo fans sort of threw a fit and said, but hey, the eShop is great for indie games and la da 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 da. And this is what came out of Ward. He was very unhappy with how the things had gone down with Most Wanted on Wii U.
Yeah, he was getting shit on Twitter from fanboys, and then he fought back, basically.
Yeah. And he basically and they all turned coat.
Yeah, well,
he won them over. But it's an interesting story because obviously I think that what happened to Criterion was that they were the final number 4 game from EA to fulfill the contract that they had with Nintendo. And I think obviously both EA and Nintendo sort of realized that, you know, EA isn't going to support Wii U moving forward. And Nintendo, they're not going to promote a game from a publisher that's moving away from Wii U. So they got caught in the middle there of something that was much bigger than this game. And of course, that's very disappointing for them.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
They were, I think...
Big Need for Speed
fan.
And we're going to talk about the film a little bit later.
Yes, we are. And I really like the game. And it's good that they at least initially thought that they were going to release on all platforms. But the thing is, as Bengt sort of said, that this is sort of the struggle that Nintendo we've seen with them before, that initially when they launch a console, third-party support, strong third-party support seems to be like a big push for them. For example, they show an Arkham City revamped version, and they show the Need for Speed Wii U version, for example. But as soon as the console is released, as it was with the Wii U, Nintendo sort of steadily moves away from third-party support, and therefore third-party support starts to waver and starts becoming more and more stale. So I think they were caught in the same struggle that Nintendo's had for years, is to secure proper third-party support and gain publishers that are happy with Nintendo's way of handling these multi-platform releases.
I will say this time with the Wii U, I didn't really believe that much in the third-party support. We were seeing, as you said, Batman, and it was like Mass Effect.
Assassin's Creed 3.
It was old games that were
Rayman,
like, oh, you can play this year-old game now. In
yeah. But at least if Reggie Fils-Aimé, which was the American CEO, if he was to be believed when he stood on the stage, it was like when we have now Wii U is a more sort of gamer-centric hardcore console with a controller in your hand and no more sort of silly motion-based games. We're more like the GameCube now than we were the Wii. Yeah. So you could think that you could at least be fooled into thinking that this would garner the support from from the third parties. And initially it was. I mean, we saw the release of Mass Effect, and huge publishers like EA and Ubisoft were supporting the console, at least from the start. And so, but then it started to waver, and that's the same that's happened with Need for Speed Most Wanted, which is very unfortunate because I bet those guys worked their asses off until it was finally released. I don't know how long time after the initial.
Yeah. Bengt, any final comments before we move on?
No, I just think you have to remember, like, if you look back at E3 2011. When the biggest partnership between EA and Nintendo was announced, and we saw footage from Battlefield 3. That whole thing was basically 4 games, and that ended with Most Wanted. Yeah. And you know, I just think that it's easy to put the blame on Nintendo, but I think mainly this is to do with the fact that the Wii U hardware is behind, so you have to sort of continue to support something that's old, and everyone is moving on. At the same time, Wii U isn't selling enough for it to be, you know, feasible to spend that money on it.
No.
Yeah.
That said, both Warner Brothers and Ubisoft still continue to support the console, but it's probably mainly going to be with the kind of titles that sell well on Nintendo platforms. Things like the Lego titles, and of course Ubisoft are going to bring out Rayman and probably Assassin's Creed in the future as well. So
The Wii U sales are picking up, so
Yeah.
we shall see.
yeah, but from a very low level.
Picking up from nothing.
I did
Yeah.
I think in Japan it was number 2 most selling console.
It sold better than the initially from the PS4. So there was a
Did it?
yeah.
At least it was doing, but it's also that the other things are not selling well. Anyway,
Yeah, we'll
let's move
see.
on to this is your area, right, Bengt?
Yeah,
Sega.
yeah, Yes.
All right,
that's
so
my area.
basically there's a new Crazy Taxi coming, iOS and Android version only.
Yes.
Creator Kenji Kano is behind it, and they talk about they want to capture the spirit of the series. I'll just give you a quick quote from the press release. A wide variety of adrenaline-fueled missions, wild challenges, and unique areas to unlock, explore, and master as you progress through the campaign. Customize your capture, increase its power and visual appeal with a wide variety of over-the-top upgrades. Take your friends for a ride and blaze a trail through the city's sidewalks and alleyways for special rewards. That is basically what we can expect, and it's called Crazy Taxi City Rush. So, Bengt,
Yes.
are you excited for this?
Well, I mean, I'm always excited about Crazy Taxi, of course. Even though the first game is really the only one that I think was great.
The arcade one?
No, the original in the arcades and also on Dreamcast.
Yeah.
The one with San Francisco in it. Of course, that's included in Crazy Taxi 3 as well. But that's the city that I felt was really well done and worked. The New York one was awful, and then the Las Vegas one in the third game was okay, but
I didn't
not as
even
good
know
as San
all these
Francisco.
games were there.
That's Crazy
They came
Taxi.
out really quickly. They came out really in a short time span, actually,
Okay.
just a few years. And of course, the original Crazy Taxi was a huge deal because it's apart from the sports games, it's the only Dreamcast title to sell more than 1 million in the United States,
Oh.
and it came out on PS2 as well, and you know it was a really big deal. But then you know the Crazy Taxi craze just went out very quickly, almost quicker. I would say it's quicker than the Guitar Hero craze.
Yeah.
So that sort of stopped short, but I think they had some success with the iOS version of the original
Yeah.
that they released a while back. So I think this is basically as a follow-up to that. They wanted to modernize it a little bit and put it out. It's Hardlight, the UK-based Sega Studios that does a lot of the mobile stuff. They've been doing some Sonic games on mobile and so on and so forth. But you know, I'm not crazy about the design. I think it sort of moves away a little bit from what I feel is Crazy Taxi. But let's hope that at least they're keeping the IP alive. So there's hope that there might be a next gen or some day in the future there might be a new Crazy Taxi, because I think I would love to see some sort of multiplayer Crazy Taxi madness game at some point. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the next story, which is that Pocketwatch Games confirms new RTS. Pocketwatch made last year's excellent indie title Monaco What's Yours Is Mine, which I read, especially Mike seemed to love a lot. They talked to Rock Paper Shotgun and said they're saying this is an RTS you could play in a party setting. And I think there's quite an interesting quote about this, because normally we see RTSs as computer, mouse and keyboard.
Hardcore, yeah.
And what Andy Swartz says, who's heading up the studio, is, and this is a quote, "These days I don't want to sit at my desk to play RTS games with strangers, even though I'm a PC gamer. I want something more comfortable. One of the shells I'd like to crack here is to be able to play this game at a deep level, but also make it approachable for people who aren't familiar with or immediately comfortable with PC RTS games." Bengt Lemne.
Quite the challenge, right?
Yes, I think this sounds awesome. This is what I want too. That sounds great.
Yes, it sounds awesome, but let's not sort of look at our watches quite yet. I think Monaco took like 6 years to make for the Chats or something like that. So So maybe it's not coming out tomorrow, and they haven't really shown anything of the game. They've just sort of talked a little bit about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Anders Schatz is one of those developers that I'm always interested to see what he's doing next and what he's talking about. And I think there's every reason to keep this on our sort of to look forward to list.
Games to look for.
Yeah, games to look for in the not so near future, perhaps. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this heads, and it's very funny that they've got a name for it, sort of Armada, but he hasn't even started on the story or the setting or anything like that.
They do
It's
say
just
it's
working
the
the
working
mechanics.
title, so.
Yeah. So it might change. It might be something completely different, but nevertheless, it's just an interesting approach, not to sort of have the setting or the story or anything that's really beyond. I'm sure he has some thoughts of it, but going all in with the mechanics from the beginning. It's sort of a Nintendo-esque approach to game design. I think Shigeru Miyamoto usually does this.
Yeah.
With they do very simple gameplay concepts and just work on the mechanics, and then they turn it into a game for whatever it may fit in terms of.
But in the end, we actually don't know if he has what. This is just what he has said. We don't know if there's other info that he just hasn't
Is
shared.
this the only available photo? Is the photo of the design document?
I mean, the thing he hasn't really said any. He said stuff, but there isn't really any.
But I mean, usually when you get to these games, you look at the track record. And while Monaco, What Yours Mine took a lot of time to make, it was still beautiful from an artistic perspective and worked very well with very refined mechanics. So,
but again,
if
that game had come out after 2 years, it wouldn't have been a good game.
Indeed,
so again, good when they take the time.
So this is the freedom you gain as an indie sort of developer, that he has the freedom to simply say, I haven't gotten as far with this, but
situations though, because you could have a situation where he runs out of money. 6 years is a long time without putting a game out.
It is. So, but I think at least from the original design document, it seems very interesting, and he obviously knows what he's doing. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think Monaco was mainly, for the main part, a one-man project, which is sort of why it took such a long time, because he got into a stage where, I think they won the Independent Games Festival award back in like 2010 or something, and then the game didn't come out for 3 years. So it's I don't know how Pocketwatch is sort of structured these days. It may be a little bit bigger, and who knows? I have no idea. But hopefully they can nail the design down and get working on the game.
Yeah. All right. Next game, another announcement. Petroglyph announces Grey Goo. So Petroglyph Games, who has formerly done Command & Conquer and Dune 2, has announced the next big project following the cancellation of their Kickstarter project, Victory Grey Goo. Bengt, what I'm not really down with. I don't know all the details.
Yeah,
can you explain this to me?
Petroglyph Games was basically founded by some of the founders of Westwood Studios that did Command & Conquer and Dune 2 and Earth and Beyond. And they were sort of pretty much, for the last decade, they've been one of the bigger RTS developers. They've done Star Wars Empire War. They were working on that End of Nations before it turned into a MOBA, before it got cancelled. And they've done a number of games, and this is their next sort of big push. I think the design looks really nice. It's a traditional base building and sort of conquest based RTS. Okay. So it's not as revolutionary as something like Armada, but I just really like what they've shown of the setting and the design of it, because we're kind of there are certain tropes in RTS games that I think we all sort of enjoy when we don't have to sort of retread them all over again. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what they're doing, and hopefully that new publisher they're working with can support them in a way that they can really make the game they want to make. I think a lot of RTS games as of late have sort of suffered from the fact that there really hasn't been the support there, and sort of yeah, there hasn't been a lot of new ideas, and there hasn't been a lot of support because there's a belief that the genre is sort of dead, and that it's only the people who played it 10 years ago that still play it, and that sort of thing, which isn't at all true.
Yeah.
But let's hope that they actually get the chance to do the game they dream of. They seem very positive about it anyway in the press release. So.
Yeah.
Which they should.
Looking back at an RTS game like Star Wars Empire at War, not particularly inventive and not particularly innovative, but worked surprisingly well, and sort of which is. It has to be said that it took the Star Wars license and managed not to screw it up, which is very rare these days. So I think we can safely assume that while it may be, if they're confident in it, and perhaps it doesn't change the genre or adds anything inventively new, they know how to craft sort of these solid RTS experiences, and those are, it's not that they're far between. But there are fewer, at least, like very publicly popular RTS games out there. They're seemingly becoming more for a very niche, hardcore audience. So, if we manage to get something out there,
there's StarCraft, and then there's the rest. StarCraft is
indeed
huge.
So if they can manage to make a solid RTS game that might be traditional, then I think that's fine. That there's a space for them.
Now I want a new Star Wars RTS.
Yes, I would love a new Empire at War. So get working on that as well.
All right.
I'm not sure Disney is up for that.
No, well, although
it's
that
EA
should be
now.
save
EA
money.
and this.
What?
No. EA has sort of the exclusive Star Wars rights. I don't think they'll do an RTS. They didn't even do Command and Conquer that they own the license for. So I doubt that they'll do an RTS on Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right. Story number 8. Xbox player hits 1 million gamer score.
Oh God.
9 years after achievements are introduced, someone hit 1 million. And it's actually exactly 1 million. It's not like 1 million and then 10 or something. Which I appreciate.
I appreciate that. It's over.
He calculated so he would hit exactly 1 million.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
After a few years of hard work, I'm just going to read the story very short. After a few years of hard work, Xbox player Stallion83 today became the first gamer worldwide to achieve the magic number of 1 million gaming score on Xbox Live. If that gamer tag's familiar, it's because it was the very same one that earned themselves a 24-karat gold Xbox Live membership card from Microsoft at the launch of Xbox One.
Yeah.
So, Bengt, before Magnus and I start talking trophies, what is your comment to this?
Sorry.
Well, this is like the mother of all achievements. I mean, this is some hard work and some research that's gone into this because there's different versions of 360 games. He's played a lot of Windows Phone games to get achievements as well, and obviously now Xbox One as well. But I don't know. I haven't even broken 6 figures, so. I can't imagine how many hours it takes to get there. It's and also I suppose it's as far as it looks, he gets a lot of points in every game. It's not like he's just quickly scouring them for the easy points.
But I think at least now I'm not an achievement expert. I'm a PlayStation guy, but I think you get more out of actually finishing games. A lot of the ones you get a lot of points for.
There's no meta achievement. As far as I can remember, there's no achievement that grants you extra points for earning all the rest of them.
It just tends to be that just like we get a gold trophy for completing a game on hard or 100%ing it, that you get at the end, that's a lot more worth than getting 10 score.
10 gamer score is equivalent of a bronze, right? Or
it's sort of like that, but it's not like what Nick says there. The trophy system is much more geared towards completing the game.
Yeah.
The gamer score system, if you want to get a big chunk of points, the best thing is to play the first hour of hundreds of games. Then you get that's the biggest average of gamer score you can get.
Okay.
If you to play through a whole game and get all the things is not the effective way to get points.
But I guess getting to 1 million, like if you just did that wouldn't be enough points to get to 1 million.
No. So he has played through, I think, most of them very meticulously, has to get those final. And of course, the completion gamer score point is usually quite big.
Yeah.
But that's like yes the final thing, because otherwise it's the first couple of hours maybe that you get the most gamer score out of in terms of effectiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate
Unless
this.
we're talking about the Japanese hardcore games where you really have to work hard for every goddamn gamer score.
Yeah, 200 hours.
But there's also games that give like 5 points or something like that, right? I seem to remember people ending up with like a weird number sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's even weird sort of uneven numbers in some games.
That was just
How's that possible?
I can't work with that.
Yeah. But I think it's usually in 5 or 10. That's usually the smallest.
Okay.
But of course, they had that in the beginning that the Xbox Live Arcade games were only 200 points.
Okay.
So in those, and then there's some that are 400, and now of course there are 1,000 as well. So
That's like when they introduced platinum trophies to PSN games.
Yeah. Jesus.
But
Then again,
old days.
you could assume that hitting a million gamer score is so hard that he actually, as Bengt mentions, has to work quite meticulously to gain that number, and that maybe includes importing different versions of games that have different gamer score lists.
Yeah.
So
it does different versions of different games in some cases. Yes.
So kudos for that amount of work. But then again, I just have to say, how many games does he have to play that he just didn't like?
Yeah, geez.
I mean, that's if you start to think about it, that probably becomes a bit sad, because I can see from the final activity.
That was people think of us.
Yeah, there's you can see the final game, Picnic Wars. I don't know Picnic Wars, but I don't want to play it.
And that's saying something.
Yeah, he maybe he's forced to play through several.
Well, forced.
Yeah,
But
forces himself.
Should we count amongst ourselves in the staff how many people have played that Avatar game that you can get 1,000 gamer score?
Have you played that?
I've played the Avatar
I
game.
haven't actually, but I've heard that a lot of people have.
Yes.
It's basically the game is you get 200 points for 10 combo, 20 combo, 30 combo, 40 combo, 50 combo, and you can do the combo against a wall in the beginning and get 1,000 within just minutes.
On Xbox as well?
I did that.
Yeah, on Xbox.
No, but I'm just because Magnus is like me. We care more about trophies, but you're going for the gamer score as well.
I did originally go for the gamer score I've also I thought I learned from a podcast that an easy platinum trophy would be the Hannah Montana original game, but I tried.
Have you started that?
I put it in the slot, but I couldn't do it. That game is so terrible that he's probably got it.
Yeah, true.
You could assume.
That's like, because I go for easy trophies, and I would do the same for achievements. But I have had a limit so far. At least I haven't gone to.
It is terrible. Don't do it. But then, do you know anything about Picnic Wars?
No, I don't.
No. But congratulations to him.
Yeah,
I mean,
I had my period where I was really into this whole thing, and I'm still a little bit. But so I can appreciate this, and congratulations. I don't think I would do this. I mean, I have a fair amount of trophies, but there's still. I look at people on my friends list who have, like, insane amounts of and I was like, I don't even understand how that's possible.
But then again, it's nice to see that despite how many hours or how dedicated you are to
it's still an achievement.
A specific system, Microsoft has been very vocal and very public in their support for him. For example, by giving him the gold membership
that's
card.
pretty cool.
It's nice that you go out and do these things for your fans, because then other people are now inspired to go and try to do the same.
Yeah.
Makes them buy more games, makes them be more avid supporters of the system, so I think that's very positive.
And then
for a company.
I can't even now I've been doing trophies, but if I would get into achievements, I can't. That's like another language. I need to focus on one.
Yeah. Now,
but I think that this is also sort of an indication that Microsoft did a much smarter thing than Sony with the trophies, because yes, the fact that someone can reach 1 million, I mean. That's just good news. That's a good headline, and it makes sense. Everyone can sort of equate what this means. This means, what is it? 1,000?
Yeah.
1,000 times 1,000. Yeah. So
that's
insane.
So he has finished.
But I mean, there's a lot of games that aren't 1,000. There's a lot of games that are just 200 or 400.
All indie games until
probably
not too long ago.
Well, not anymore. Not on Xbox One, but you know, he's probably played. Well over 1,000 games.
I mean, he has played at least 1,000 games, finished them.
Yeah, well, there's DLC as well, so I think a lot of titles have more than
Okay,
1,000
that's
these
true.
days.
To be fair, he's probably at least finished around 750 big titles.
Yeah.
Just 750 big games.
Like that's
Yes.
like getting the platinum trophy in
And
those.
that's
insane.
That's
until
like 2 a week or something.
and that's in 9 years. So it's not
Yeah.
since
but
he started.
then I could do it. Like
Yeah.
9 years, that's
Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's well, I mean, it's the equivalent of like what should we call it? Maybe 2 platinums a week.
Yeah.
Could you keep that up for 9 years?
See, that's the thing.
A
I
week.
couldn't be that committed.
No.
That's too much. Like if you have a period where you go for trophies hard, then after that you burn out, and then you have a period
Yeah.
where you don't want to play.
What
games.
kind of job must he have?
I don't. That's the other thing I thought right away. Do we know this is one guy?
You're
that
saying
is-
that
that
they
is
take.
very
I'm not.
interesting
I'm
as
not
well.
saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I
Do
know
we know
that-
this?
yeah.
Has this been confirmed?
Yeah,
It's
one
guy?
man came to receive the gold membership.
Yeah, but they would
card.
also be stupid to send 10 guys. You know.
I would like to thank the entire team.
But then again,
There
even
was-
if it was a couple of guys, I would still be.
It's still
Yeah.
impressive all around.
All right, enough achievement and trophies talk.
Yes.
Let's get to the final story, which is one that we actually is from one of our own interviews that I think Mike did, right, Bengt?
Yeah, it was Mike.
About FIFA and about women's football in FIFA. So in a recent interview with Matt Pryor, the producer of FIFA 2014 FIFA World Cup Brazil, is the official title.
Great title.
Mike asked about women's football in FIFA. And I have a couple of quotes I want to read out. Ladies football, and this is what the response from Matt Pryor from EA. Ladies football in itself is something that we often discuss here, Pryor told us. As it's growing, there are certain key territories where it's massive. In the US, there's real stars over here, the ladies team. In Canada, it's big. I think in Germany, it's pretty big. So it's definitely on the rise, and it's something that we, time and resource allowing, would love to get into. And he continues. One of the challenges is to do it properly, though, and authenticity is key to us. It's a lot of work, and it's not just a case of throwing up a female character on a male body. We do motion capture. It's all very authentic movement that we have in the game, and obviously women move differently than men. So I think if we just throw a female character on a male body, it wouldn't really look right. So basically, they want to do it justice and have it authentic. Bengt,
Yeah,
what do you think of this?
And it can't be that if you play a woman's game, it's slow and not as technical. I'm just being a devil's advocate here. I think it's a good thing, and I think we're seeing the first female athletes in. Well, I think they've done it in tennis before, but in
tennis,
UFC esports UFC is they have female fighters in there. So I think we're getting to a point where people sort of expect this now.
Yeah. I will say we've also seen it. Call of Duty. This last Call of Duty was the first one you can play as female. Titanfall, you can play as a female now.
Yeah. And I've talked to the Pro Evo team about the same subject a few years back. Of course, in Japan, the women's team is very big as well. They're one of the best teams in the world, unlike the men who aren't as good.
Oh, they had that good, one good year when the World Cup was down there.
Yeah, but I mean the women are actually like in the world finals and stuff like. I mean the final game, so they're a strong team. And of course the US, the women's team is huge.
Yeah. Sweden has quite a good team as well, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that you'd sell a lot of copies of FIFA on the back of that.
No, that's true.
They don't have the media.
But that's probably they would
it's-
sell a lot of this in the countries like US and Japan where the men's team is not good, but where the women's team. Because even in Germany, where I know the female football team there is really good, they still wouldn't sell a lot, I think, because they have a really good men's team.
Yeah, exactly. They would be overshadowed by the male players and teams. But it's an interesting thing. So let's hope they can work it out and make it as fun to play.
Yeah.
Because it is fun to watch women's football, although it's very different than men's football. It's I would say it's probably more tactical than men's football, less physical and more tactical, and it would be interesting to see just how that translates into a game.
Yeah. I haven't been a big fan of watching women's football, but I would definitely like to see a game like this, especially if they do what you kind of touch on now, that and he does as well. It isn't just male figures with then they're female. That if they catch that thing that it plays differently and it would feel like a different game than the male FIFA game, that would be really awesome. Give me a reason to play that.
There's always you can always make the argument that it's nice that when they're doing it properly. I just think it's the most surprising aspect of it is that it hasn't been done yet.
I think it's just.
I'm not sure. I think it's been done in football. If we go way back, I think it's in one of the. If it was Sega or Sony that they did one that had actually female teams.
I actually think where they had Mia Hamm on the cover or something from the US.
I think actually Sega did a This Is Football. I thought, which is a series that had some sort of.
That was Sony, right? This Is Football.
Oh yeah, that might be right. Yeah, for the red.
Yeah, and it was all about playing dirty.
Yeah, there was R2 was for filming. That was
but we've had that in FIFA as well. I remember there was one button where you like
the filming button.
You could get free kicks even though no one did anything.
So we're I think we're sort of waiting, and I think it's great that there's happening something in the UFC where we're sort of accepting that that there should be gender equality, and I think that it's nice that it's getting to. FIFA would be a huge deal because it's sort of one of the biggest, not only sport, but one of the biggest entertainment properties, at least in the industry. So that would be a great move to see.
Yeah, I think maybe the first place you could see it if they do a new FIFA Street or something.
I was just thinking that.
It's a good idea, yeah. But then again, I don't know how well the last FIFA Street. It sort of came with mixed receptions.
Yeah,
so
but
I think
the ones before were also that, so they could bring it back again anyway.
Again.
Yeah.
So
all right, I think this is it. Maybe we should just mention the big releases of the bank. That was something you brought up before the stream.
Yeah, if we had time, we would talk about it, but we're sort of out of time.
Yeah. But just basically, Titanfall came out this year.
South Park.
Or this week, Was this week?
No,
that was last week, yeah. So Dark Souls and Titanfall this week, yeah.
Yeah, and Hearthstone. So it was
and the other T-Fall, Towerfall came out as well.
Yeah. Towerfall Ascension.
A really big week.
So yeah, Bengt, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And then we should be ready in a little bit. We'll be joined by Gillian McAllister, also from the EU side, the UK side, and we'll talk the Need for Speed movie. So Bengt, thanks for joining us and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.